The Alps, where the air is like champagne, and if you're very lucky, you'll see a famous star. The Alpine people have a strong connection to nature. To them, the Edelweiss star symbolizes the very essence of all that is good and fair in their mountainous world. Edelweiss means noble, white in German. It's called the Queen of the Alps, the everlasting flower.
It's a mountain flower. It grows high up on the mountain.
This plant is a very rare plant.
It's a very fragile flower.
It's velvet, it's white, and it's a star.
But nothing is quite so simple. This star has strange secrets that some find very hard to swallow.
Gibt's das?
Never heard this before.
Ist das möglich?
To get to the truth behind the Edelweiss, to sort the fact from the fiction, it will be necessary to pull apart all we know. The danger is we may never be able to put it back together again. Like all good stories, this one begins with once upon a time. High up in the Alps, above the clouds, lived a beautiful ice maiden. Her smile was warm, but her heart was frozen. She could not cry. Yet she was all alone up there, in a world fraught with danger. When young men started to conquer the mountains, their way led them across steep, rocky slopes. Suddenly, they saw the warm smile of the Ice Maiden. Nothing else was important. The desire to reach her was all-consuming. So they climbed higher and higher, with no regard for life or limb, until the Ice Maiden's frozen heart melted when she saw those young men fall, and for the first time she cried. Her tears became Edelweiss. But like all good fairy tales, there's a twist, because the Ice Maiden cried those tears in the most difficult to get to places, so that forever after, men who tried to reach the Edelweiss risked death. Still, the Edelweiss grows in precarious places. For 3 months each year, it blooms above 1,800 meters. Just like the Ice Maiden's tears, things are never quite what they seem with this flower. The white star petals are not petals at all, but leaves or bracts, which surround the flower heads.
Each head is containing something in average of 50 very, very tiny flowers you can only see with a lens. And these little heads are framed by that star-forming bracts, and in these altitudes where the Edelweiss is growing, there are no bees, there are mainly flies pollinating.
That's right. The white star is to attract flies, not people. It even emits a human sweat-like scent to ensure regular visits from its creepy pollinators. Early botanists didn't describe the Edelweiss as the Queen of the Alps or the everlasting flower. They called it Leontopodium, meaning lion's foot in Greek. And in the Codex Bellinensis, a 15th century herbal, the Edelweiss was not depicted with romance. It was recorded as a traditional cure, known for its anti-inflammatory properties. It was added to milk and taken for stomach aches. So how did this stomachache plant become a star? At the Munich Botanical Gardens, this Edelweiss enigma becomes apparent. Few people will see an Edelweiss in the wild, so they come to gardens like these.
Every visitor is asking here for the Edelweiss. That's really astonishing if you are aware of the colors and growth forms of all the other alpine species.
They may be beautiful, but the Edelweiss has some exceptional properties that place it above the other alpine plants. Firstly, it is rare and difficult to reach. But more important, once the Edelweiss is picked, it keeps its shape and color.
The Edelweiss is looking beautiful on your head even if you wear it for 1 year.
Even after hundreds of years, it still holds a natural beauty. So it's called the everlasting flower, the flower of memory.
Das schönste Blumerl auf der Welt, das ist das Edelweiß. Es blüht versteckt an steiler Hand, ganz zwischen Schnee und Eis. Als ich 14 Jahre alt war, da war ich Ziegenhirt und in St. Gallenkirch und dann bin ich zur Heimspitze getrappelt mit den Ziegen und dann kam mir die Idee, jetzt möchte ich etwas nach Hause bringen. Da habe ich meinen Stecken genommen, eine Schere dran gebunden und einen Faden. Und dann, die Edelweiß habe ich nicht erreicht, aber mit dem Stecken und mit der Schere habe ich gezogen und das Edelweiß ist zu mir gefallen. Es blüht versteckt an steiler Wand, ganz zwischen Schnee und Eis.
Between snow and ice was where the adventurous longed to be. In the 1860s, Alpenvereine, or mountain clubs, were formed in Austria and Germany. It was not the Ice Maiden's smile that attracted them. The climax of their adventure was the peak. They were the first to take the Edelweiss as a symbol. Many who wore the Edelweiss badge became guides and protectors of nature, which was a good thing because the Alps were about to become very popular. From the late 1800s, railroads took people to places they could never before reach with ease. The Alps became a prime destination. It was the golden era of alpine tourism and of alpinism, when people from cities had the time and the money to travel and to have adventures. These visitors wanted a memory of the Alps. The everlasting flower was the perfect souvenir. It could be sent across land and sea as a postcard, depicted with a sentimental flourish, a certain alpine romance.
At the turn of the century, until the 20s or 30s, dealing with Edelweiss was an important business. It was a kind of part of entrepreneurship, of collecting this Edelweiss, of making little arrangements, of producing souvenirs.
And because of its everlasting properties, the flower was used to adorn the memories and milestones of everyday life. Artists and craftsmen reproduced its image. It went beyond the commercial. The flower was embraced by the alpine people, and it embraced them, covering their traditional clothes, worn with pride on special occasions, and then it became a love charm.
Die schönste Blume auf der Welt, das ist das Edelweiss. Es blieb versteckt, ja, zwischen Schnee und Eis.
Wie ich jung war, habe ich von einem jungen Mann ein Edelweiß bekommen. Und das ist leider heute nicht mehr der Brauch, aber früher schon. Wenn ein junger Mann ein Mädchen gerne imponieren wollte oder haben wollte, dann hat er ein Edelweiß überreicht.
Es hat was zu tun mit Revierverhalten, es hat was zu tun mit vermutlich einfach auch ganz schlichten Verhältnissen. Wie kriege ich als Frau einen möglichst optimalen Mann?
Das muss dann schon von oben kommen, wo der Mann sich ein bisschen anstrengen muss, wo er ein bisschen klettern muss.
Wenn ein Kerl so toll ist, dass er darauf kommt, dann muss er gut sein.
"Bring me Edelweiss," said the tourists, the lovers and the locals. The flower was pillaged. By 1886 it was against the law to pick it in Austria. It was the first protected plant species. Would the Edelweiss become a mere memory? There were those charged with upholding the law. Fritz Löffler was one of the Edelweiss's fiercest protectors.
Ich hab da natürlich ein scharfes Auge gehabt und war weitum bekannt als gefährlicher Beobachter von Edelweißgeher oder Brucker. Ich hab Fälle gehabt, da waren sie zu viert oder fünft und sind über die Grenze, um den Edelweiß zu brucken. Und da ist ihnen einer abgestürzt. Der war tot. Sie haben ihn liegen lassen müssen und erst in der Nacht haben sie ihn dann über die Grenze wieder umgeschmuggelt. Und das sind tragische Fälle natürlich.
Despite its protected status, the flower drove Edelweiss hunters to ever greater risks. Men constantly underestimated the difficult terrain and unpredictable conditions of the Alps. In one single season, 50 died trying to pick Edelweiss. The Ice Maiden's tears had had their revenge, but more tears would soon be shed when the Edelweiss was taken to war. One of the most treacherous fronts during the First World War was the Alpine border between Italy and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. At 4,000 meters, men fought nature as much as each other. Tens of thousands would die from avalanche, cold and artillery. Many were alpinists or members of local alpine militias. They took the Edelweiss with them into battle as part of their uniforms. There were also German alpine troops who fought alongside the Austrians. They were given the Edelweiss symbol as a gift for their support and bravery in these mountain battles. Again, the Edelweiss was a flower to die for.
Der deutsche Gebirgsjäger wird identifiziert durch das Edelweiß an seiner Uniform und wird zugleich ja noch sozusagen als der gute, als der tapfere Elitesoldat damit bezeichnet. Das heißt, man sieht, wie eine Entwicklung von einem sportlich orientierten, explorativen Verein hin zum Militär und seiner Nutzung als Uniformbestandteil ganz unterschiedliche Wege und Wellen nimmt und das jetzt schon mehr als 100 Jahre.
The next wave of military use swept across the Alps in World War II.
Wir haben mit Stolz, die Gebirgsjäger, haben das Edelweiß gestickt auf den linken Oberarm gehabt und auf der Gebirgsmütze.
Edelweiss badges were coveted, in some places even traded for food.
Es ist einfach der Stolz von Gebirgsmenschen. Das Edelweiß war immer Heimat.
And Heimat, or homeland, was something the National Socialists wanted their leader to be linked with.
Grundsätzlich verliert jedes Symbol natürlich dann an Kraft, wenn es befleckt wird, wenn es schmutzig wird.
Hoch an schroffen Felsenwänden blüht die Blume seltener Art, der Kanzler unseres Volkes seine Neigung still bewahrt.
Ich bin mir ganz sicher, dass die Nutzung des Edelweißes im Nazi-Kontext darauf basierte, dass der sogenannte Führer eine große Begeisterung für den Alpenbereich hatte. Und mit den Alpen hat man nun mal das Edelweiß verbunden.
Adolf Hitlers Lieblingsblume ist das schlichte Edelweiß.
But far from the Alps, in cities like Cologne, Hamburg and Dresden, groups of young German people were using the Edelweiss to represent their opposition to the Nazis, and especially to the Hitler Youth. They were the Edelweiss pirates. They established their own subculture, wore colourful clothing, and sang defiant songs. The words to this song were found written on a Gestapo prison wall. The Edelweiss pirates paid heavily for their descent. Many of them were tortured or killed.
Wenn man die Geschichte der Nutzung dieser Blume sieht, dann findet man sehr viel Heldentum, Heroismus, Blut, Unverständliches. Es ist eine sehr komplexe Geschichte, die eben nicht monokausal erklärbar ist, sondern wir haben dort einfach sehr viele Facetten, so wie halt das menschliche Leben sehr facettenreich ist.
Salzburg. It was here in 1964 that the Edelweiss would begin to regain its status as the flower that represents all things good and true. Salzburg was a major location for a motion picture musical called The Sound of Music, where the Edelweiss made its Hollywood debut, and its star appeal went global.
High on a hill was a lonely goat-herd, loud was the voice of the lonely goat-herd, lady-loo. Folks in a town that was quite remote heard, lady-loo. Lusty and clear from the goat-herd's throat heard, lady-loo.
Edelweiss, every morning you...
It's a love story, mainly through the film. Then the film transports the beauty of the country, Austria.
Every year, 300,000 people, that's double the normal population of Salzburg, come to see locations where The Sound of Music was filmed. From all over the world they travel to experience Salzburg through the memories of a musical, and there's hardly an Austrian amongst them.
It was part of everybody's fantasy and a really nice true love story based on a true story. The scenery is just so beautiful in here in Austria, and the music's so wonderful.
It It was based on a chapter from the real life of U-boat commander Captain von Trapp, World War I hero, anti-Nazi, a widower trying to raise 7 children. He marries their governess, Maria. She sings, the family sings, and the story of the singing von Trapp family became a Broadway musical and Hollywood movie. The film won 5 Academy Awards. It starred Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer. But despite its enduring popularity, few people in Austria or Germany have seen it.
Ich habe von diesem Film nichts gewusst, bis ich diese Arbeit hier gekriegt habe als Busfahrer. Es ist schon erstaunlich, wie viele Leute das 40 Jahre nach dem Film immer noch nach Salzburg bringt.
Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me.
Small and white, clean and bright.
You look happy to meet me.
It's a wonderful piece of work, this song. And why it is so famous, it is because it expresses so much of Austrian way of life.
Broadway musical geniuses Rodgers and Hammerstein had never been to Austria, yet they would create one of the greatest Edelweiss myths of all time.
When Austrian politicians go to foreign countries like China or Taiwan or Korea, or even Sri Lanka, people sang them these song because they think it's an original or it's the hymn of Austria.
The deception went all the way to the top. President Ronald Reagan once played the song to the Austrian President Rudolf Kirchschläger in the belief that it was the Austrian national anthem. But Alpine people have their own special songs.
Auf der Römio, auf der Römio, komm Bettlikürli, komm jetzt, auf der Röm, da gibt's Korsen.
Now, in a Bavarian valley, another Edelweiss enigma has emerged. For hundreds of years, paintings on buildings have been popular here. Called Luftelmalerei, they depict religious themes, fairy tales, and traditional life. But finding an Edelweiss amongst the images is extremely rare. That was until the US military built a guest resort in the shadow of the Alps and called it Edelweiss Lodge.
We wanted to create a theme around our resort, and more so than just, a building. And so we had these beautiful white walls, and they said, we got to come up with something to put on these white walls. The Edelweiss kind of came up for the themes for us. The meaning behind him risking his life is much like our guests who are fighting and defending our country.
The Edelweiss Lodge is a retreat for active and non-active US military personnel. There are 5 themed resorts like this around the world.
The flower is rare and it's a delicate flower, and we think that's much like our service members. They're rare and they're delicate. They require a lot of care. This is a time where they get to reunite with their families and spending time together and holding hands and laughing together and just creating memories that can last them. Every morning you greet me, soft and white, pure and bright. Forgive my singing.
Millions of visitors now come to the European Alps every year, looking for adventures and memories, just like the first tourists in the 19th century. It doesn't matter that they don't see a real Edelweiss on the top of Germany's highest mountain, Zugspitze, because they're never far from one. They'll visit Edelweiss huts, stay in Edelweiss hotels, and buy Edelweiss souvenirs. Edelweiss has become a multi-million-dollar icon. A Swiss airline is named after it, an Indian investment bank, a French astronomy project. It's been on countless coins and stamps. It's even an Austrian beer.
Da, schau her. Den Mann, der mir mal Edelweiss bringt, den heiratet ich.
Pflück dir ein Edelweiss, sonst hast du keins. Und hast du kein Edelweiss, dann pflück dir eins.
Im Weißbier ist natürlich kein Edelweiss drinnen. Es soll nur der besondere Wert des Produktes schon auch durch den Namen gekennzeichnet sein.
The Edelweiss's rise to stardom through romance, kitsch and myth has served to make the European alpine people even prouder of their homegrown star. But there's something about the Edelweiss that few realize. Something that may take the smile off their sunny faces. The Edelweiss is not an alpine plant from Europe. It originated elsewhere.
Gibt's das? Never heard this before.
Ist das möglich?
The Edelweiss we have now in the Alps came from Central Asia. You have to imagine that after the Ice Age, the glaciers withdraw, and there were vast open spaces, ideal for pioneers to colonize.
Edelweiss flowers are not an ice maiden's tears. They are pioneers from a far-off land. 18,000 years ago, the ice was 1,000 meters thick in the Alps. When the climate warmed, plants took advantage of the newly exposed soils. From the Altai Mountains in Central Asia, they came to the European Alps. Many of these plants could be spread by wind. One of them was the Edelweiss.
If you see the overall distribution of the genus, we are on the westernmost limit of the distribution with only one, or if you want, two species.
There are 120 species and subspecies of the genus Leontopodium. Tibet has more species than any other country, so it is probably from there that the plant spread into other parts of Asia and eventually Europe. In Asia, they grow in many different habitats, from high mountainous regions above 5,000 meters to forests, and on the vast treeless plains called the steppes. Out of all of the Asian species, the ones that are most like the European Edelweiss come from Mongolia, but it's not forbidden to pick them here. So does the Edelweiss that grows on the steppes of Mongolia hold a special place in the hearts of its nomadic people? It takes a professional botanist to tell the difference between the alpine Edelweiss and the Edelweiss of the steppes. Professor Otchirabat has never had to climb to see one. He can ride on his horse. And he has his own view on the European cult of the Edelweiss.
Европын одоо залуучууд бол тэр хэцүү бэрхшээлтэй газрыг л газарт байгаа тэр ургамлыг л олж одоо тэр найз бүсгүүдэн өгч чадах юм бол тэр хамгийн дотны одоо сайн найз гэж тооцогдох учраас тэрний төлөө л явж өөрөөр хэлбэл чин зүрхний төлөө явж байгаа европчуудын одоо нэг том онцлог.
But there's no need to risk your life here. At 1,500 meters, Mongolia's average altitude is just right for Edelweiss. So it's accessible and abundant. And just like in the Alps, the people of the steppes call the Edelweiss the everlasting flower, the flower of memory. Similarities stop there, because here it is harvested with grass and fed to Mongolian herds in winter.
За мөн тэрнээс гадна монголчуудын одоо хамгийн хэрэгэлдэг өргөн хэрэгэлдэг нэг их хөлөг эрэгтэйчүүдийн хэрэглээ буюу одоо хит захиж гал гаргах гэдэг хэрэгэлдэг.
Юм боловсруулаад өнгөн юм болж л доо. Энийг шатамхай болгохын тулд бол тэр марганцын уусмалт дэвтээж угаад тэгээд сүүлд нь наранд гатаад наранд тавьж гатаагаад тэгээд сүүлд нь энийг ингээд захиур чулуу тагаа хавируулаад ингэж гал гаргадаг.
Өөрөөр хэлбэл одоо Монгол үндэсний чүдэнцийн одоо өөр гүйцэтгэж байсан.
Монголчин дээр үед захиур буу гэж байлаа шүү дээ. Одоо дээр үеийн энэ хурдан буу гарахаас өмнө бол Монголын анчид бол бүгд л захиур буутай байсан. Захиур бай мөн ийм цагаан уулны хаюутай дариа тавиад тэгээд ингэхэд нөгөө дарин авалцаад тэгээд бууддаг.
Хэр талын хинцхэн сарна би арван дэлхийшээ ачлал тэстаниха алганы толом дээр ургасан байж таарна.
In modern-day Mongolia, in the capital Ulaanbaatar, Edelweiss is no longer used for firing weapons. There are no signs of it as a symbol, except at the Edelweiss Hotel. There is no place for a flower among the statues of heroes. But there are those who would like to understand its powers.
It was very interesting for me to know, to find out that Edelweiss is very precious and very symbolic and important plant for European and especially Alpine countries. In Austria they have a lot of songs, and especially folk songs with Edelweiss.
Von solch schneeweißem Stern.
Professor Narantoya also discovered Edelweiss was once used in Europe as a traditional medicine.
I thought maybe it is a medicinal plant in Mongolia. I have to check it.
So Professor Narantoya sent PhD student Odonchimeg into the countryside to discover more about the Edelweiss and how it's used. She began her research in the traditional yurts, where her uncle still uses the plant as a folk medicine. Baljinyam dreams on a pillow filled with Edelweiss.
You can find that this goes as an ingredient in certain number of recipes in Mongolian traditional medicine.
Тэгээд одоо энэ бремгийг яаж хийдэг тухай би нэг 2-3 хэлье да. Ингээд энэ цагаан уул нэг зүйл, бремиг нэг зүйл. За одоохон шудаг нэг зүйл ч гэдэг юм. Ингээ 10 зүйл байна. Энийг бол тусгай дэнслээд, хэмжээд тэгээ сүүлд нь бол ингээд одоо шигшээд, мунтаглаад тэгээ хамгийн сүүлд нь ийм энийг бол эмийн хүрд гэж нэрлэдэг. Энэ дотор ингэж одоо олон одоо ингэж нохдог. Түм нохож амторн, түм нохож өнгөрн, түм нохож үнэр орно гэж монголчууд хэлдэг.
Professor Sarinsadnom has spent decades recreating the life and work of traditional doctors. The items in his collection are precious remnants of a way of healing that once attracted violent retribution.
Mongolian traditional medicine philosophy is relying on the Buddhist philosophy. It's very closely attached to the Buddhism. So, and in socialistic time, it was introduced for Mongolia to be an atheistic country. And the most of these marams or medical doctors, they used to be lamas. So that's why a lot of doctors of traditional medicine at the time were killed.
Between 1921 and 1990, under the Mongolian People's Republic, industrialism surged as the old Buddhist society was dismantled. Traditional medicine was rejected. Still, all across the cities, behind closed doors, people risked death to practice the religion and its ancient healing methods.
За энэ ч утгаараа яаж ийн хөхтөр бас монголчууд ерөнхийдөө бас ер нь Монголын буддизм бол тэр үед ер нь бараг устцсан гэж ойлгодог. Гэхдээ бол энэ бол устаагүй юм аа.
Natsakdoj is a highly esteemed lama. In the 1970s, he travelled across Mongolia to learn traditional medicine from respected doctors who were in hiding. His teachers used ancient texts, and while traditional medicine was outlawed, these books were hidden safely away, buried or kept in caves. They are written in Chinese, Tibetan and Mongolian. In an important 17th century text, Natsakdoj has found reference to Edelweiss.
Edelweiss in Tibetan language is Brava. Brava can be to grow in the steppe and mountain area growing, and what is the color, taste and how to use.
Natsakdoj has now built a Manp Datsan, based on an original 16th century clinic and medical school. There is no distinction between the mind and the body here. The healing process involves the chanting of Buddhist scriptures, psychic guidance, and the prescription of herbal remedies. After the collapse of communism, conventional medicines were unaffordable in the country. There was only one doctor for 600 people. Traditional medicine was embraced, and medical students could openly learn about the healing properties of plants like Edelweiss.
Энэ сургууль одоо оюутан бол 6 жил сур төгсөн. Сур төгснөхийн дараа бол 2 жил одоо хөдөө болон аймаг орон нутгийн одоо эмнэлгүүдэд дадлага хийсний дараагаар шалгалт өгч эрүүл мэндийн яамнаас хүн эмчлэх эрхийнхаа лицензийг аваад ажиллаж байгаа.
In Nutsak Dorch's clinic, one of the main Edelweiss treatments is moxibustion. This woman has chronic gastritis, an inflammation of the stomach lining. She's been prescribed 10 moxibustion sessions with Edelweiss. All of these items are made out of compressed flowers and leaves. Burning the Edelweiss will heat carefully selected acupuncture points. The intention is to stimulate circulation and to induce a smoother flow of blood. The heat generates a healing reaction. The burning of moxa cones can be done directly on the skin, but slices of garlic stop scarring. Skillful indirect moxibustion like this is said to be deeply relaxing. Edelweiss was also once used in Europe to heal. That was before it was picked to near extinction and long before it became a plant to die for. Now its use as a traditional medicine here in Central Asia has inspired scientists to look beyond the symbol. Professor Narantoya will soon investigate what is at work in the yurts of Mongolia.
It gives a chance to expect a good biological activity in the future from Edelweiss.
The costs of analysing the chemical makeup of Mongolian Edelweiss will be great. But far, far to the west, in a place where to pluck just one Edelweiss is a crime, Austrian scientists have been searching for its secrets since 2001. Narantoya will join them in their quest. PhD student Odonchimeg will take the Mongolian Edelweiss to Austria.
And maybe in the future it will serve somehow for the health of Austrians, Mongolians.
Nasında çütigi maratare. Don't forget me.
The Asian Edelweiss is once more on a journey to the Alps. This time, not to emerge from the tear of an ice maiden, but to reveal its greatest secrets. Odonchimeg is here to compare the chemical properties of the Mongolian Edelweiss with the European species. This institute was established in 1853, but Edelweiss research is only recent. When scientists here began their studies, there was no one to explain how and why it was used.
At the moment, in this region, Edelweiss is not used anymore. Why? Because it is an endangered plant.
So they searched old herbal records to find it was used for rheumatism, stomach and respiratory problems. This indicated that it may contain compounds with anti-inflammatory and antibacterial properties.
First of all, we had to see, are we able to get enough material? Now, since Edelweiss can be cultured, this question could be solved.
Mass cultivation gave Professor Stubner the quantities of Edelweiss he needed to begin experiments. Immediately his team started work, the Edelweiss proved itself a far more complex plant than other alpine species that were also being tested at the time.
It has a really complex mixture of constituents, so we were able to isolate so far about 50 different compounds.
Some of the compounds were effective in the treatment of inflammations and bacterial infections.
We could prove that the people in the past, they were right.
They also found a mysterious compound present in high quantities in the flowers and leaves.
We found out that we have a really huge amount of a compound which has really strange properties compared to the other compounds.
It took 2 months to isolate it. And when they looked up the database of existing compounds, they were in for a surprise.
And this is the time point when it gets really exciting, especially then when you find out that this compound was never found before.
They called it Edelweiss Säure, or leontopodic acid. And out of all of the natural compounds they had investigated, this one was unique.
Leontopodic acid was the compound with the highest antioxidant activity. So it's a really very nice, very interesting compound.
Odonchimeg has found high quantities of leontopodic acid in Mongolian Edelweiss. Many Asian Edelweiss grow above 5,000 meters. They may have even more of the compound because the higher up the Edelweiss grows, the more leontopodic acid is present. UV radiation is a threat to the survival of high-altitude plants. This unique compound may be a protective mechanism that guards against the harmful effects of the sun. Cosmetic companies have seen the potential. Edelweiss extracts are now used in anti-aging creams, skin whitening products, and sunscreens. But what began as an investigation into the reason why the Edelweiss is an effective traditional medicine has uncovered an extraordinary possibility. From compounds inside the roots of the plant.
At least 2 compounds of the root material, they are able to improve the memory of mice, for example.
They artificially induced Alzheimer's symptoms in laboratory mice. The mice were unable to remember their way through simple mazes. But when they were injected with Edelweiss substances, it improved their memories.
They could be used if you are suffering from dementia or suffering from Alzheimer. Of course, so far we just have data from animals, so we don't have data from human beings. And of course, a lot of different investigations have to be done. But the data we got so far are quite promising.
Could the flower of memory hold the key to memory? That would be the ultimate Edelweiss enigma. It is the flower of love, the flower of bravery, the flower of Heimat. It has endured myth, mystery, and misuse. It is the everlasting flower that may one day help us to remember what can happen when we reach for a star.
Du bist die Königin der Berge, Blume meiner Fantasie. Du bist Schicksal, Schicksal, Schicksal. Du bist Schicksal und Begierde, Zauber und Magie. Selten und schön stehst du da, unter Gipfeln dem Himmel so nah. Die Berge sind dein Zuhause, wer dich haben will, muss hoch hinaus. Oh, dein Kleid wie Silber und so weich, dich zu finden.